The book of Proverbs, verse 6. Start children off on the way they should go, and even when they are old, they will not turn from it. Okay, so, hi everybody, this is Christian RPG Gamers. So this background footage is from when I was playing some Vampire Survivors. I've been getting my way through the adventures. They're actually pretty difficult, but I'm almost gotten through the vast majority of them. I got a little bit stuck on the more like the Japanese one, but we'll see what happens, right? We'll push through. But okay, so I think for today's video, I want to talk about the idea of. I don't always have the best way to formulate the words I want to say. Basically, the idea of a positivity, and the idea of why positivity is. I think it's a good thing to incorporate into one's life. And maybe I'll go through, and I'll give some reasons or some examples. And this isn't meant to be absolute or anything either. And this is something I've been kind of working on. I've been putting more personal effort in to do in my life, and I think there is some pretty good results. But okay, so I'll go over some different ideas when it comes to the idea of positivity. I'll try to put something like a Christian spin on it too, right? But so for example, I'm not always the best at starting these things. I'm pretty good when I get into it a little bit. So I do feel like on a level, it's the idea of one's spirit. It's the biblical concept of a spirit. Like you have your, or you can even use one's mood or one's spirit, or how you feed yourself. What you I think it's like the age old we call it adage. I think it's called you are what you eat. So the idea of if you consume a lot of negative stuff, you're just going to become more negative. And you consume more positive stuff, you become more positive. And it's like, you go out on, what is it? Even on this platform, right? You go on YouTube and you watch a video, and that person on YouTube basically just screams into their microphone. They're just so mad. They're mad about and honestly, it's hard to even keep track of what people are so mad about. They're mad about just some stupid crap. And they're just angry, and they rage, and they have a big fit, and they just have an emotional meltdown, which I'm sure you could find 100 of these easily, right? And people are always mad about something. It feels like some people just need an excuse to be mad. So if you watch something like that, right? Or you watch some massive anti-woke, I don't even know, whatever they're on about today, right? You got the Black Samurai and Assassin's Creed Shadows. People are just freaking the flip out. I don't know if they're still mad about that, but they're mad about something. Always mad about something. Somebody out there, they're mad about Mr. Beast. We're mad about, the guy who tries to help people, but they're mad at him. They're always mad at somebody. They gotta find something to be mad about. And if you watch all that kind of stuff, or it could be anything, right? It could be the politics, war going on. It could be I just don't like somebody. It's like you feed yourself, right? You get fed, and when you feed yourself into this extreme, a very negative spirit. And the word negative and positive, I don't think it's necessarily fair to always just hold to one. It's a very overarching word. I think it's easier to use the word negative and positive. It's not always a bad thing to be negative, but it's generally viewed in a more bad light. So you can be a little more concise with some of your words, but you feed yourself into all this kind of stuff, and then you reap what you sow. So I'd probably say the first good argument and point is, yeah, see, now I'm able to get in. Now I'm getting in a little bit more. It's a little bit easier. probably you gotta kind of keep some of that. You gotta keep your you gotta keep yourself under like control in the sense. You gotta, what's the word? You gotta watch how much of this stuff you consume, and what you're thinking about. It's like, I think the first step to be more positive is to kind of work on like your negativity, and like it's like even biblically, right? Like we have sin in our lives, and you can do good deeds, but your good deeds will never make amends for your evil deeds, and you're filled with these filthy rags, like the idea of your soul, right? So you have to take off these these filthy rags and get cleaned up, and then put on these holy rags instead, or not holy rags, holy robes instead. It's kind of like a metaphorical idea, but so like maybe it's like the idea of positivity again, like the first major aspects, you got to deal with your negativity, so that way you can because those things are just going to destroy you. And I would say, when it comes to positivity, is I feel like you gotta just slowly learn over the course of time to just maybe find more wholesome things. Find more wholesome things to think about. Find some more wholesome things to dwell your mind on a little bit more. It's like, I was going on was like one of like the two doorways to hell, right? They got Reddit. You got Reddit and you got Twitter. Now I don't really go on Twitter, but I do sometimes go on Reddit. And it's like you get your feed. And like sometimes it's good to be careful who you're subscribing to or who you're watching and listening to, because they'll feed you. They'll feed your emotions. So like I found that I subscribe to, I think it was like a Reddit positivity, for example. They just like, it's like more positive stuff. And there's like things like was like Reddit wholesome memes, and even like some gaming news every once in a while. Just some more neutral, tempered attitude. It's like you could have things that are a little more funny. You could have things that are a little more upbeat. Just some like what is like motivational pictures. So. Or sometimes this stuff will just goes into your feed, right? And you just see something that's a little bit more upbeat or a positive or uplifting, or maybe it makes you feel something just a little bit better, or it works on like the bad actions, or it builds up the good actions. It's like you feed yourself, so you feed your spirit, and it's like, obviously you got to work on getting rid of the bad stuff, and you got to start putting more good stuff into your diet. It's like whatever you think about all day is like that's what you're slowly going to become. And like the same thing is true with a lot of stuff. So feeding one's spirit. And it's it affects your attitude, it affects your mood. It affects it affects other people around you also, because like not only will you reap what you sow in your own life, you'll sow these seeds into everybody else's lives around you also, which will therefore it'll affect them. But if you're doing these things to other people, then it's going to come back around, and it's going to be pointed back to you also. So not only will you reap in your own life, you'll reap in other people's lives, which all get reflected back to you at the end of the day too. Like usually you don't reap. It's not like you sow one seed, you reap one return, and then that's it. Like you start sowing these seeds. I know this is kind of like metaphorical. It's even like biblical analogies, right? You start sowing like a little apple seed, or you start working on building it's like you're gonna build a tree. It's like it could be like a bad fruit, like it could be rotten fruit, or it could be good fruit, but you're gonna invest into something that you're gonna get a return back, and you're not gonna sow one seed and you're not gonna get one return. You're gonna sow one seed, you can get up to 100 times over, and like that tree is just not gonna go away, right? And next year that tree will be there again, and you keep reaping it back and over and over again. So I guess like the idea is that you reap what you sow. So you should be careful what you invest in. Not only for yourself, but for everybody else. So I'll say that's a good second point, right? Okay, so And I do like making some of these different points. So what would be a third point? Well, okay, so for myself personally as an individual, one aspect is, again, there is some good biblical principles too, right? Like I am Christian RPG gamer. I should talk about some more Christian things. I do want it to be more natural though, but the idea of seeking and finding. So for myself personally, I occasionally go on these. I haven't done one in a while, but sometimes I go through and try to reevaluate what I'm investing in. And sometimes you gotta go out and you gotta look for some new stuff. Like for example, right? Hypothetically, I went out on YouTube, for example, and I was just looking at. So to start with, I just needed something to do, right? Like sometimes I'll just be sitting at home or something. I just I needed something to watch. And I looked up, I was who am I gonna go and watch? And what am I gonna watch? What am I gonna invest in? So, again, there's so many different options out there. So you gotta have some kind of priorities. Like, what ideally would you want and desire? What would be the best eating or best tasting food or drink? And it's the most highest quality, the best versions of stuff you can get out there, or the most personally, the biggest return for your investment. So I think that's a step one. Also, if you could be more picky as to there's quality, and what specifically would you be interested in trying to find? It could be ideological values. It could be people. What is it that you want to get? What kind of return specifically would you want? I think what's the best way to put this? How am I trying to explain this? So say I could watch there is gaming walkthroughs, for example. This is the easier one, right? Then this is kind of where I started finding stuff on YouTube originally. They feel like they don't make very many good games anymore these days anyways, but nonetheless. It's I want to watch someone play a video game. It's okay. So there's no commentary. It means there's not going to be anyone that's going to speak over it, which I think has value because it makes the content more authentic. Say I was one, I don't know, I don't know why this is my go-to example game, but it's I always talk about this game now. Maybe because it's just such an amazing game. It's The Witcher 3, right? Despite it being perverse, it is arguably one of the best games out there. Just objectively. That's probably why I always mention it. So it's always one of the first things that come to my mind. I wanted to watch The Witcher 3. I wanted to watch a game movie of it. I wanted to watch the main story or something. Not having any commentary on it, I think, adds a lot of value. The reason this adds a lot of value is because you're getting more of the authentic experience. It's I'm not getting influenced. I'm just gonna enjoy a neutral entertainment. So there's that option, right? And then another option would be I want to watch some kind of a let's play or a person who, what do you call it? Maybe they have a little face cam on, or they're in a little corner. Maybe I'm watching a version that was a pre-recording of a live stream that once existed. So I could get that investment, and these things are pretty tame, right? So again, it's I could get and maybe that person could influence you in some levels. You can also watch it literally someone do something live. So it's there's different levels of how you could get a return. And this is the low potency. So if you go to the higher examples, I would say it comes to stuff like commentary. And there's different genres or different areas of commentary. So there's stuff like pop culture, for example. The latest TV show or movie or video game, or the latest whatever there might be out there. And then there's like I guess there's like politics, and then there's like what else is out there? There's a whole bunch of stuff out there. It's like and like there is like Christian or like a religious style of content. There's like discernment style ministry. There is what do you call it, current events. Like, and there's also stuff like drama, and there's like breaking down and like how, which is like just trying to like how to's and how basically like improving, getting smarter, or trying to learn stuff, or like maybe reviews on stuff, or there's so many different stuff out there. And like, again, this is where like it really can come down to what you feed your spirit. So it's like, okay, so like if for example you're watching like a very anti-woke person just goes out there and just is mad, right? That's going to influence your spirit negatively. And maybe you watch like a Christian minister gives you a small preaching, maybe that would positively upboost your spirit. But sometimes being like being rebuked for your sin is a good thing, and sometimes anti-negatives can still work out to a positive at the end. It's like again, like a preacher preaches at you because they preach because they're working on like your soul and your spirit, even a small amount, which is ultimately good. And again, like I feel like if you're watching lots of drama and stuff, you're watching people like behave very badly, very selfishly, lots of chaos, and it's gonna do a lot of stuff to your spirit. People being mad at each other, arguing at each other, they're swearing and they're cussing and they're insulting and lying about each other and stabbing people in the back. You get all that kind of stuff. Or even like in politics, you have different major figures just trashing each other constantly. That's going to do a lot of negative stuff to your spirit. And like I personally, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to ever like to watch this kind of stuff ever, but like there is a level of like negative consequences towards those types of actions, though. And it really depends on like who you're watching and why you watch them. Some people are just a lot more like jaded. Like even when it comes to the Christian faith, like some people are just very negative, and they're angry and they're very bitter. And like all some people do, they only focus on the worst. I do think there is a level of negative consequence to that. But yeah, I mean, I guess really the best argument of this little video is that, I guess, like, to be careful what you feed yourself every day. And like again, like I don't think watching and consuming negative content is always a bad thing, because like it is just sometimes it is just entertainment. Sometimes you just need something to do. But I also think if you just consume massive negative stuff all day, it's just not good for one's spirit. And like purposely, I feel like the purposeful choice to invest in, or to seek out and then to invest in more positive things, like you're gonna reap a better return. Like say you're in a bad mood, you work a job, I don't know, at some retail store, and a bunch of people that day were just like, they treated you like garbage. They were nasty, mean, right? Just hateful, cruel, just vicious to you. Customers, your boss, they treat you like garbage. So you go to your car or something. I mean, this is a hypothetical. I'm sure this has happened to myself. A hypothetical, right? And like the first thing you're gonna do, again, like you're gonna have to try to deal with that stress or deal with your bad day or your bad mood. And like I think that it is very easy at the same time to to just consume a bunch of negative stuff, like just being really mad and just freaking out or whatever. Like that is the easiest possible choice. But At the same time, if you always pick the easiest possible negative choice, it becomes a foundation in your life. And oh yeah, like here's a great example. Okay, so I wasn't sure a good way to come up with the answer to this, but now I actually this is a great answer, right? So a person left me a comment the other day. But this person was civil, right? I like civil comments. I mean, look, I'm not like an absolute freedom of speech person. If somebody's gonna be like really mean in the comment, I might just remove their comment, to be real with somebody. If I just don't like it, right? I mean, I have thick skin, but I just have low patience to just awful people. But I mean, it doesn't bother me that much. But sometimes I just don't feel like dealing with it. But usually, if people are reasonable or something, like, it's fine. But this person left a comment. They're asking me basically why magic in video games is a bad thing, and why stuff, all that kind of stuff is a bad thing. And again, like, one good reason is that you invest into that foundation, and it becomes like a norm, and it gets hard. It's harder and harder to get rid of it. So like, if you turn to sorcery as your toolbox skill, it's very hard to get rid of it out of your life. You play as a mage. And like, I understand, like, sometimes these are fantasy worlds, right? And you can't escape fantasy in a fantasy world. It is what it is. But you sow into something and then you reap what you sow. So you sow into, casting spells all the time. You're gonna reap, the return. And also, the more you invest into something, the more access it has into your life. Like you get a skill tree. I'm sure this video is about to come to an end. Here, I got another one. I think I made 3 technically. I don't have the other one downloaded. But it's like you get a skill tree. You get all these skill points. It invests into your foundation. Like the developers are incentivized to keep making more. So it's like, again, like, sometimes it's inevitable, right? Like, okay, so for example, say I'm playing okay, I try not to bring my real world life into what I do too much. I'm playing on like a Dungeons and Dragons campaign right now. I think I talked about this, I don't know, a couple weeks ago. So one of the characters that I initially kind of built, I don't know if I'm going to stick with it, but as I built a bard. So technically speaking, in 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, bards have sorcery. Or they have some. They do a lot of talking, I guess I talk a lot too, but there's a little bit of magic they use. It's kind of naughty, it's fantasy, right? But sometimes it can't be avoided. But again, like, the more you invest into these types of things, the more return you're gonna get, and it's gonna be harder and harder to get away from it. It's like, there is a level of wisdom to at least being aware of that, right? Because you play as like a wizard. It's gonna be really hard to get away from magic. And like, again, like, maybe you got a little bit of some magic with your character because you're playing in a fantasy world. But it's very, very hard to get rid of it because it becomes part of your character, and like, the world around you is going to be shaped and bended to your actions. I was talking about this earlier, like, you sow a seed, you reap your return, and also when you sow seeds, you invest them into other people's lives too. And it's like, eventually you have like a building, right? Like, it's going to be true with positive and negative. It's like you have a church, right? You sow a seed of having a church. That is a place where there's direct, Christianity that's going to be part of that world now. And you're investing into like more, Christianity, like, virtuous things. At least it should be, that is. You reap what you sow. And more Christians are going to kind of go there, or it's like a spawn point for people, or it's like you sow into this and you reap from it. And the same is true if you built like a nightclub, for example. It's not always a bad thing. Or you have like, in your little nightclub, you have like a strip bar. Or you have I don't even know what you call them, like a prostitute area or something. pay money for, the naughty stuff or whatever, right? That building would become like a foundation, and you'd sow into it, and then you reap from what you sow. And the same thing with magic is that you invest in the magic, you're just going to reap more and more from your magic, which again is going to affect you, and you're going to reap what you sow. And also, again, like, you could also choose more positive, wholesome stuff. Simultaneously, you could say, like, invest into like a fighter's guild or something, because like you started becoming like a fighter or like an adventurer. You sow into it, you could build like like a fighter school. And, like fighters would they're like heroes or whatever. Or if you play as like a wizard, you're going to invest into like a wizard's guild, which means you're going to have more and more spells. Or if you're like a bard, maybe you invest in like a tavern and you sing in a tavern. And bards do like a little bit of everything, but so yeah, I guess this kind of comes back to the idea of like one's mood, right? Or even like spirit. I mean, again, just hypothetical examples, right? Of like you reap what you sow. So like I guess like just being more, I guess like the idea is just being a little more cautious about what you invest in, and like maybe just go through your YouTube playlist, or all the channels you watch, and just think about it, right? Or you're going on your iTunes and all the music you listen to, or or whatever it might be, your favorite Twitch streamers, or Rumble, or Odyssey, or BitChute, or whatever you watch, or a list of video games in your library, just or the type of ideological values you invest into, or whatever it might be. Just maybe just think about it, like just go through and think about them. And it's like what am I getting as a return? Like I'm investing how much time into this, and how much of a return am I getting on this, and what does this actually do? And like, is this good for my mood? Is this good for my soul and my spirit, or like my heart? Or is this just like really violent, angry, hateful rhetoric? Am I listening to people just being mad all the time? And what is it? Does it make you feel like you just feel angry, right? You feel hatred. Or do you, when you listen to and watch something someone else makes, do you feel better? Like, does your mood feel better? Or maybe it kind of stings, right? It's like going to the doctor. Maybe it kind of stings initially, but by the time you leave the doctor, most of the time, right, you probably feel a lot better. Even though you might feel kind of terrible initially, you probably still feel better. Or it's like, I guess like think about like how your mood or your spirit is after watching or consuming or thinking about or investing into something. I guess the idea of one's spirit. So yeah, I think those are just some of my initial thoughts. Oh yeah, and as I was saying, like, if you screen them out, just maybe somebody you watch on YouTube. Obviously, I have a little channel. I don't even know who's going to watch this video, but if you feel like I'm bad, then maybe maybe go find someone else. Somebody's going to have to fill that void in your life. I don't know if it's going to be me, but it's going to be somebody. Yeah, just think about oh, by the way, I'm very thankful to whoever watches my channel, right? It is what it is. I try to be a God's servant. I try to do a good job, but obviously I fail too. But yeah, go through all that stuff and just think about, like, maybe one of these people is just really toxic, and maybe they are a Christian. They're just angry, and they stir up drama, and they're always involved in conflict and trouble, and they're just like they present the absolute worst, and they don't present the best in anything they do or say. Anything they teach, they preach, it's just the worst. Maybe just consider taking a break from them. Or maybe watch them less, or just cut them out of your life altogether. If they're making your mood really bad every day. And then maybe go out and just do some searching. Maybe you gotta find some new person. Find somebody who's more valuable in your life. Or or whatever it might be, right? And then you can reap some better returns. Like again, like the same thing is true. What kind of video games you play, or movies you watch, or TV shows. Or it's like again, it's okay, right? It's just maybe just think about it. You're gonna go to the movie theater. There's gonna be 9 choices. Maybe just think about the movie you're gonna watch, or just periodically you might think about the stuff. Just kind of just evaluate some of these choices. Like you could have the new Deadpool movie. There's probably like 5,000 times where they swear in that movie, and honestly, it's probably more than that. And it's just violent, just angry, and it's supposed to be funny, right? It's funny, but it's really just kind of perverse. I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm not telling you whether you can watch that movie or not. It's just an example, right? Or you could go out in the movie theater. Maybe the movie. I don't even know what they're playing right now, honestly. But you find a different movie you could watch. Maybe one that's just not as vulgar or perverse. Try to find something more wholesome. It's just think about if you watch the Deadpool and Wolverine, you're probably gonna feel really angry and really bitter and really unhappy after you watch it. I'm just gonna be real with you. It might feel good initially, but you're gonna feel really awful afterwards, and you're gonna think about it, and it's just gonna affect your spirit really badly. But if you found something more wholesome, you're gonna feel a lot better afterwards. It's you drink a Pepsi, drink a large Pepsi, right? It's gonna taste really good, and it's gonna feel good initially. And then after you do that, an hour afterwards, you're gonna feel really, really bad. The caffeine's gonna wear off, the sugar's gonna wear off. You're left empty. Versus you drink some water or something, or you eat some vegetables or something, you're gonna feel a lot better. So I guess there's just some things you can think about. So yeah, I guess what you consume is what's gonna affect your spirit or your mood. So just try to maybe consider slowly investing in some more positive things, and then slowly kind of fade some of the negative stuff out, or even just try it for a small period of time. You might honestly just feel infinitely better in life, and everybody around you is just going to be better off too. It's just going to affect you. Okay, so I guess in the comment section below, let me know what your thoughts are. And what are some things that you do or you can do to find some more, some more positive or some wholesome things you can invest in, over some negative stuff? Or how did you get rid of it? Or what kind of a mood do you feel when you watch or consume something bad? Or what do you think about this? Okay. Yeah, thanks for watching. God is good.